Well, hello, guys. I'm talking here, and I have myself on mute. So one more time, welcome to this. What I'm going to do here, I'm actually going to, and these are some of the things that I've just been sitting in the back of my mind for, for a long time. This is what I've been spending the last 3 years of my life learning about. Can you guys hear me? Hi, Anise. Okay, so feel free to ask questions. So what I want to talk about today is the master codes of life. And I can see myself having these subtitles. It's very strange. Okay, so feel free to ask questions. So why does it actually matter that we learn about, the master codes of life and that we learn code mastery, and why should we even care, right? And I think this is where we have to start, because one thing that we really have to understand is that we are in a different age. It has been going on, the 2012 prophecies, etc., etc., etc. We live in a different time, and it's just very recently. And that means that in order to navigate this time, how, Claudia? In order to navigate this new age, like this new time in the evolution of humankind, we have to learn the new rules of the game. Because if we keep doing it the same way we did before, it's not going to work any longer, right? It's like the rules are different. And so what we have moved into, when the grid, upgraded from the light grid to the diamond grid, all the old codes fell apart. And we have new codes available, and this of course doesn't happen like this. It is like an progress that's been taking some time, but we are truly in the age of magic in the way it has never been before. And when I say age of magic, it's not like we say Wingardium Leviosa and then we levitate things with our wand. But it's the ability to create something out of nothing at will and on demand. And it's like setting the stage, creating the space for, it looks like miracles, right? It's like magic that something happens. And this is like the modus operandi of the coming age. It's not control anymore. It is, because before it was all about, I'm going to set a goal and I'm going to make it happen, or and you really took like massive charge of your life so that you could get exactly what you wanted. Now it's different, right? Because now we are, yes, we still have a taste for what we want to create, but we invite magic to come in and co-create with us in a way that it has never been possible before. And it's like learning to activate the codes that create magic. And, it's really what, code mastery is about. And also the thing about magic is that because you can't control magic. You can't control magic, right? You can just like kind of create the stage for it so that it can come in. You can create the container for magic. You don't always know what magic is going to look like, but it's always better than anything you could ever have conceived of, right? So this is something that's been, become really available to us, especially since the dark portal opened. Because when the dark portal opened, genius became available. Our monstrous, giant, divine genius became available to humankind for the first time in the story, in the history of man. So why should we care about our genius? The genius is your divinity, right? It's like your super self, your divinity. It's like your divine self is not about becoming one with everybody and kind of blend into the masses. It is about becoming absolutely outstanding as an extreme individuation of your genius codes, of your genius substance, of your genius self. This is your divinity, right? A God, not like one of the masses. So there has been a lot of talk, started a couple of, I remember way back in the 90s, I read a book that was called The Super Beings. But anyways, it is just like the codes have been placed, that we are moving to this, and we're moving into the place where we are becoming superhumans. And what I mean by superhuman is that you are able to craft the experiences you want to live through. And it's very deliberately that I'm not saying the experiences that you want, because we're going beyond what you want. Because when you want something, it's something very concrete that you put into, you kind of put yourself into a box, and it has its place, but it has to start with, what kind of experiences do you want to live? What kind of experiences? And when I ask myself this question, it is not, it's a couple of months that I realized that it was not about what I wanted any longer, because I knew how to create that. It was about, what kind of experiences do I want to spend my life experiencing? And it was definitely, taking people to power places, and really, really super activate them there, into the dragon self. And the other part is getting people out of shadow and into the genius, which is what the Dragon Academy, well, both are about it, but the Dragon Academy is like, specifically about getting people out of shadow code. So the superhuman is what I call the dragon. Talk a lot about being a dragon. I have some other live streams you can go and look at, about being a dragon. But the superhuman is not what you would consider a human, if you think about a human as being somebody who is like, part of a community, has feelings, cares about other people, belongs to a tribe. It doesn't mean that you become cold and heartless. Well, in some way you do, but it's like the freedom to love. It's like love becomes way more unconditional, and that matters to me, because love is an expression of your divinity. It's a feeling of quality of divinity. So love matters to me. So if we look at our divinity, it's like, how can you bring more love into your life? How can you bring more love into the world? I was like, is there anything more important than that? Because when you're melted with love, when you're soft with love, right, then it's just like, there's no better experience. But to get to that place of, the divine love, you have to let go of the human kind of love. I wasn't even going to talk about this. So you go into a dragon love. It's like an alien kind of love, because it's not personal. It's very impersonal, but because it's impersonal, it's more pure, right? It's not conditional, it's unconditional. It's just because it is. So part of, I mean, if you think back, like since the 60s, it has been about healing yourself and working on yourself and expressing your feelings and, healing from your trauma, figuring out your trauma, digging into your trauma, your childhood experiences, your past experiences, your addictions, all these things. It's like it's been so much part of it, which has brought the awareness. But I remember back a couple of years ago, maybe 15 years ago, I used to read a lot of self-help book, right? Looking for the answers in the self-help book that would finally have me change. And I just got to the point that I cannot read another self-help book, because it doesn't change anything, right? It doesn't change anything. I can go over the same things over and over and over again. And I understood why I was the way I was. I understood why I had the thoughts I did. I understood why I had the feelings I did. I understood how my feelings and thoughts, came out of self-sabotaging behavior. And then what, I did like a ton of emotional healing work and energy work and past life therapy and da. And what I realized is that it didn't work. It didn't work. You know, I would feel better about myself, but it wouldn't really change anything. And for me, you know, for those who have been around for a while, you guys know that money, making enough money, has always been my biggest hump. So it was very obvious that, you know, nothing was changing money-wise. So that means, well, it's supposed to, right? So it didn't happen. So I eventually just gave up. You know, I was like, feel my feelings and, you know, do what I could. And then I gave up. So when in 2019, I came across like the first version of what has then become Code Mastery, was the Shadow Alchemy. I was like, this is it. This is it. This is what I have been waiting my whole life for. This is what I've been seeking my whole life. This is the key to really, really change who you are, how you live your life, and what your life looks like. It's like I was no longer, you know, I could see how learning about the codes, even just in the, you know, in the proto version, basically, I got full control over my thoughts. I would no longer be a victim of my thoughts. I would no longer be a victim of my feelings. I would no longer be a victim of my beliefs. I would no longer be a victim of my own behavior. It's like suddenly I took command of my life and I could decide how I wanted to live my life. So what I realized then is like, which coach you animate determines everything about who you are, what you think, what you feel, what actions you take, and what your life looks like. It determines how you live your life, and it determines what life you're creating for yourself. Now, coming back to the genius, the reason we want to animate our genius, to bring our genius into the 3D reality, which our genius is just codes, right? It's just raw codes. They don't really have a form, but they still have, you know, something that matters to us. The reason we want to do that is because this is the one place where you truly know who you are and what you're made of and what you're here to do in life. Right? It's like nothing else even compares to how it is when you're living in your genius, or it's like, you know, you're living as a dragon. It's like you, at every second of every day, you are creating the most euphoric life you want to, free from all limitations. And I cannot begin to tell you how incredible it feels when all constraints fall away and you're just free to create the, you know, and here I come back to the important questions. You're free to create the experiences that you most want to live, knowing that this is also where your riches are. This is where your best relationships are. This is where your best health is. This is like where your most unimaginable, magical, beautiful, awesome life is. So coming in, looking at the master codes of life. There are 4 parts to you. Hi, Eva. You're welcome. So any questions about this, you know, feel free to ask questions. So mastering the codes of life, you know, like learning that so that you are not stuck in an endless repetition of the same, because this is what we all know, right? We work on ourselves, we heal ourselves, we understand ourselves more, and somehow our life just ends up being like a constant repetitions of the same things. And we want to bring an end to this. We really, really want to bring an end to this so that we can like flip over, you know, jump over into our superhuman self, our dragon selves. So there are 4 parts to you. You are made of a soul, a spirit, a body, and a mind. And, you know, for those of you who know about the archetypes, yes, this is definitely the archetypes we're talking about, but I want you to drop the concept of archetypes right now. It's like come into this like brand new with a beginner's mind, like if you have never heard about anything about this before, because archetypes has, you know, some associations from way back when. And where we have gotten to is working with codes instead of the archetypes. So each of your 4 parts, your soul, your spirit, your body, and mind, has 4 sets of codes to them. Now, they don't live on a spectrum. You know, they are not like kind of like a sliding scale that here's shadow, here's power, here's, you know, then we'll go a little bit further, dark archetypes and the hyperconscious archetype. They are 4 distinctly separate sets of codes that has distinctly separate task or different purpose in your makeup, right? It's like shadow codes has nothing to do with power codes, which has nothing to do with dark codes, which has nothing to do with the hyperconscious codes. It's like very, very distinct. So what it amounts to is that you have 16 sets, like 4 parts of you, each with 4 sets of codes. It's like you have 16 sets of codes that you have access to. And mastering these codes is when your mind really takes off into like the unimaginable dragon world, genius world space. So out of these 4 sets of codes, and this goes for each single part of you, it's like 25% of them, a quarter of them is like what truly makes your life suck, which is why you're stuck, which is why you're not making money, which is why you have problems with your children, which is why you have problems with your health, which is why you have problems in your relationships, which is why it seems like you're always looping in the same thing. And of course, I'm talking about the shadow codes. Now, this is the problem with the shadow, right? It's the only problem you have. The only problem you have is shadow. This is it. Because once you are in shadow and animating shadow codes, it spills out into every single aspect of your life. So if you have shadow in one area of life, you have shadow in all other areas of life. If you have one shadow code activated, everything you do is shadow. You cannot be in power and shadow at the same time. You cannot be in dark and, you know, dark codes and the shadow codes at the same time. It's like you're always in one distinct thing. So, I have to think about that one. But anyway, that is definitely true when it comes to shadow, right? If you're animating shadow, one place in life, it's everywhere in life, which is why it is so important to really unhook yourself from shadow. And it's a process, right? This is why I put up the 1-year program with the Dragon Academy, because with all the clients I've been working with since 2019, which is 3 years now, it takes that long time. Just because shadow codes is all you have learned to animate. It's all you have known. It's all you have known through lifetimes. It's all you have known through your ancestral patterns. It's all you have gotten from your childhood. It's all you get from society. It's all you get from the culture. It's all you get from your, you know, education. It's all you get from most coaches. It's all you get from most therapists. It's all you get from most psychologists. See, because this is the only thing that people know is shadow. And so it is so hellishly hard to, you know, realizing you're in shadow is one thing, right? To get yourself out of it is like another, but to stay out of it, because the shadow codes are so ingrained in your DNA and it is fucking sneaky, right? You have one stray thought and you're right back in shadow. So I had one of my clients, she was writing about how she felt so much in her power and, you know, like how everything was changed and she was totally fired up and, you know, she was, you know, whatever it was. And then she ended with like, all I have to do now is like thinking about how to figure it out, how to do this. And she didn't even catch, right? She didn't even catch the last part, like thinking about figuring it out and planning it. Was like 3 words that was just like major red alert for she was in shadow. It's like, this is why it is so important to have somebody from outside of you that can, you know, that can call you out on your shadow, because it's like a sneaky fucking bastard. And it's stubborn as hell. It's not going to want to let go of control, because the purpose of shadow is to help you survive. And if it doesn't have control of you, it can't help you survive, right? So on one of the posts I wrote, it's like, when you go in and really, really, really go to war against shadow, because it really feels like it's a battle, it's a war, it's about who runs your life, whether it's going to be you or your shadow. And it's going to take a while, right? You're going to go into battle and battle and battle, and you're going to go back into the arena and pull out the sword and slay that motherfucking shadow one more time. And then there's another shadow coming up. You have to keep at it, and you have to keep at it, and you have to keep at it. And the minute you think, oh, I finally got out of the shadow, I've made it, that's where shadow gets you again, right? You can't ever let go. So the other 75% of it is like, you know, of each set of codes is like your power codes, your dark codes, and your hyperconscious codes. Now, each of these has, like, especially the power and dark codes, they have a, I don't actually know, because dark codes are nothing. The power codes is a substance. It is not just like an idea in your head, right? It's like very, very concrete substance, just like the genius itself is a substance. So the power codes, which are the power codes, are extremely important. Now, it used to be that we would do the shadow alchemy to get from shadow to light, and light would make you a master of manifestation. Now, with the upgrade in the grid, the light codes, the light archetypes became the power archetypes. It doesn't say archetypes, but the power codes, right? It's like you have a set of the codes of the power substance in your soul. You have like set of codes of power substance in your spirit. You have a set of codes of this power substance in your body, and the same for your mind. And these codes are extremely, extremely important still. Now, what I'm starting saying is, like, it used to be that we would, you know, alchemize from shadow to light. And then when the dark codes become available, suddenly it became so much better, and they were like far superior to the light codes, and everybody was trying to become a dark worker and, you know, like unhook from the light and not be in light anymore. And what, you know, all of us who did this, you know, me included, you know, we realized that we were clinging on to the idea of living in the dark, you know, with the dark archetypes. You know, genius is like running away from participating fully in our earth life, because this is what we have agreed to, right? We have agreed to come here and live an earth life. And retreating into the dark, and it's like, yeah, this doesn't matter, and this doesn't matter, where everything matters, because, you know, the dark is all about nothing matters. It was like, that was an escape. And that escape in itself is a shadow, right? So all of us who did this, we just ended smack back up in shadow. And it took like a while to realize that what we thought was the dark was actually shadow. And this is why it's so fucking sneaky. It's so fucking sneaky. So we have realized then that, you know, the upgraded version of the light archetypes, which is the power codes, the power substance, is extremely important for actually crafting your three-dimensional life. And when I think of the power and the dark, like, I have a little joke to play with myself, right? It's you know, the word execution. So it has two meanings. It's about execution is like killing, and you know, kind of like ending something, but it also means you know, putting something into, you know, action. So both the power and the dark, you know, you can play with that word execution, but the power codes are the codes that turns the myth of your genius into a real life experience, into your 3D reality. So in that way, the power codes are the ones that actually is like, okay, so this is power codes that makes me go and open this box, right? It is not my genius archetype. It's not a dark, it's not the dark codes. It's not the hyperconscious codes. It is a warrior code that makes me say, okay, my body needs some water. And then I go and do it because this is about the body channel where the warrior codes are. It's like the power codes are the ones that makes you change matter so that what matters to you is what becomes matter. It's like what moves the energy around so that it becomes something very concrete on a physical level. And it's not going to happen if you don't animate the power codes. And starting with that, because the other part of the power codes is like your way out. It's like your compass out of shadow. Let's see what you say. Genius code. Yeah, there's only moving in the private. Yeah, genius codes. Now, the genius codes, they are a substance in the bones. They don't have any story. They don't have any content. They don't have anything attached to it. It's like, this is where the dark archetypes. Oh, so one more thing about the power codes is that it's a fuel for genius. If you're not animating your power codes, your genius has no fuel. I think this is really, really, really important to have that in mind. No power, no genius. Because there's still the tendency to skip over into genius, because the power codes, it's like they're all about, stop abandoning yourself, don't settle for anything, what do you value, what price are you willing to pay for it, what are you willing to sacrifice, where's your power, own your fucking power, own your authority, don't wait for other people to do it for you. It doesn't matter if it's fair, you're going to do it anyways, playing the long game, taking full responsibility for your life, and then buckle up and do the work. There is no easy way of creating your life, right? I mean, it is easy, but you have to step in fully and just craft your life. It's like this is a part where the dark became shadow, because we became all passive. It was like I became passive, and others too. And we all experienced like a drop in our income because we just became passive when we said, okay, we all gone dark now, we have left, we unhooked from the light and we all gone dark. And suddenly it became so passive, which is shadow. Now, so the power code is like shadow will do everything to keep you out of power. Remember, shadow wants to stay in control. It wants to keep you small. It wants to keep your world like the same it always was, because it knows how to keep you safe in that small world. So coming into power and like bursting, all the boundaries, and going into something different, so like shadow's not going to want to do it. So this is where the work really lies. It's like the work is to change your default state of being from shadow animation to power code animation. And it's hard, some of you have been at it for a while, it's hard, and you keep relapsing into shadow, which is why I decided, and my story too, right? You keep relapsing into shadow, which is my story too. Everybody have seen, this is where the real struggle is, just unhooking from shadow for good. Now, once you have started to animate the power codes, which are, of course, the lover, the sovereign, the warrior, and the magician, is, that's when you really, start, generating the energy, the fuel that then makes the genius codes available to you. So genius is a raw substance in your codes. It doesn't have any shape, it doesn't have a form, it doesn't really have anything, it's just the raw codes. So this is where the dark archetypes come in, the dark codes, the codes from the dark archetypes, however you want to call it, and those codes are the myth maker, the blind seer, the activator, and the alchemist, right? First of all, these codes unhook you from the old rules right? So we need them, right? Because we're still used to operating from the old rules, from the old grid, from the old reality, from the old age. So the dark codes, they help you unhook from all the old rules. And they're the deletion codes, meaning they're going to burn up the codes from, from the old, your shadow codes, your light codes, if you have any left. So, but what they also do is that they're the processes of your genius codes, of the genius substance, which doesn't have any content. It's just raw codes, right? So it's like when it comes into the myth maker, that the myth maker starts begin to digest the code, and it starts creating the myth, the new story of your life, your dragon world, that's your dragon treasure, your dragon art, which is, this is what you're then, going to begin to create. And the other dark archetypes then helps you with this. The blind seer who closes, who can see what is not. The blind seer who can see what is not possible, what is not realistic. Sees into the magical possibilities. And the alchemist who then just knows, what exact codes to bring together, to really, start, creating the art of your genius. Because the thing about genius is that it wants to be turned into matter. Genius wants to matter. It wants to be turned into matter. And what it becomes is like once you submit to your genius, right? It's like you let go of all the other things that matters. And what happened when I went to the Cortona Power Place just recently, 2 weeks ago, 2 years ago, 2 weeks ago, I can't even remember. Wow, I can't remember when it was, probably 2 weeks ago. It was really about like closing our eyes to everything that matters. It was a blind seer archetype, right? That kept closing the eyes and kept closing the eyes and kept closing the eyes to everything that we have been taught should matter, so that we could finally have the freedom to choose what matters for ourselves. And of course, the only thing that matters is, what experience do you want to live? What experience do you want to live? What kind of experiences do you want to live? Not the specific what, but what kind of experience. And this is what genius is all about, right? It's not just like one thing, but it's like the kind of experiences that you want to live. And then, it begins. And then that, like the new story, the new codes that comes into creating that experiences, then it moves from, moves down into the power codes, which then can take, like the knowledge of which experience that you want to live, that is coming from your genius, right? It's really infusing your whole being, the genius codes. And it's like, yes, this is the experiences that I most love to live. And then it comes into your power codes to say, okay, I want to live this kind of experience. How specifically do I keep on doing it? So for example, here's an example. So I'm now put up like 5 power place experiences. One is the Wild Mystique Retreat, which is really a pilgrimage to a genius. There's Ancient Magic of Scotland, which is happening in October. There's like the Sphinx's Eyes, which is to Egypt in February, the Oracles of Greece, and then the Mystical Portals of Iceland, right? It's, where was it going? So anyway, the experiences I wanted to live, it's like what is the taste, and and what am I really good at? What is that I can do? What gives me more joy? What gives me more euphoria? What do I love more than anything else? It's like taking people to power places and just take them into a whole different reality, which then, once they come back to their life, it's like a massive upgrade of their life. This is what I love more than anything else. Plus getting people out of shadow. Oh, I love that part. Anyway, so what specifically is it going to look like? And then it comes down, it's like, okay, I want this trip, I want this trip, I want this trip, I want this trip. So let's say I already had the Wild Mystique retreat created, but then, okay, all the others, Iceland, I'm good with, I know this, I've done this before. But how about, okay, so ancient magic in Scotland, the ancient magic of Scotland. So I actually had to sit down on my butt, really bring in the power code, sit down, do the research, take responsibility for creating, follow my intuition from the magician that said, do this, look at this YouTube, Google here, do this, set it up this way, plot it on Google Maps, do an Excel sheet with the places, It's like all these are then the power codes that take the experience, the kind of experiences I have a taste for, which is like my genius coming through, where I'm creating my genius world, my dragon world, and giving a specific form that I can actually go out and 3D experience. Right? You see how it works? So the hyperconscious, killer arc, which is the mad archetypes, the killer archetypes, they are really, really weird, right? Because they kind of like, I just kind of like turbocharge it. They kind of really turbocharge everything, and what, really brings you into a place where it's multidimensional, meaning that you can live in different places at once. So for example, I realized yesterday or the day before yesterday, it's like, oh, I'm already at the Wild Mystique retreats, which doesn't start, in more than a month. But I'm already there crafting the exact, experience for the people who come there, who are in a pilgrimage to their genius. And I don't know what that means, but I just know that as much as I'm right here, sitting here talking to you, creating my Ancient Magic of Scotland tour, I'm also there at the Wild Mystique retreat, crafting, it's like it's almost like sacred geometry that I'm planning the exact codes that is gonna, I don't know, like boost you into such a massive upgrade in all areas of your life, because your codes are not just in your business, it's in all areas of life at the same time. And this is something that doesn't get talked about, enough. And I certainly am guilty of that because I focus very much on business and money, but it's always in your whole life. So normally when we talk about the different codes, we talk about shadow codes, the power codes, the dark codes, and the hyperconscious codes. But I want to flip it around, and talk about like your soul channel, your spirit channel, your body channel, and your mind channel, to give you a different perspective of it. Now, I want to say that in the Dragon Academy, we're going to go into details with these codes, and it's going to be Sonika teaching it because she's doing awesome, with it. So you'll get access to the Archetype Academy there. So that you have access to like really, really detailed information of this. And then I'm going to work with you on actually implementing it in your life. So I was sitting here and thinking, okay, so I really want to flip it around rather than talk about like each, like shadow codes, like the prostitute, the child, the victim, the saboteur, it's like change it around and talk about the soul channel. It's like the part of you, that soul, that has 4 different sets of codes in it. So I'm thinking like, okay, so what is the defining channel of, or the defining quality of your soul? What is the one thing that all 4 sets of archetypes or 4 sets of codes are about in your soul? And it's about love. What do you love? And with the shadow codes, what you love is your survival, right? So it's like everything is like when you animate the shadow codes of your soul, it becomes all about surviving, because on a shadow level, which is really your subconsciousness and your most primitive consciousness, it's like all about survival. In that way, it's very animalistic, very tribal in nature. So it's like all these soul shadow codes is all about surviving because you love surviving. And then once you take it up to the power codes, right? It's like, what is it that you love? What is that you love? What is that you love from a place of power? And what you love is like the specifics of your life. Now, you know, just as example, right? It's like the specifics of my life is like, I love having a big screen iMac that, you know, I can sit and work on. I love having this huge mirror there. I love having the piece of art hanging up there on the wall, right? These are very, very specific things I love. But it's also, oh my God, it's like, yes, I can take people on mystical tours and retreats. That's the experiences that I want to have. But where specifically would I love to take them? And the example of the ancient magic of Scotland, it started out like, you know, the British Isles. And then I realized, no, it's not all the British Isles. It's very, very specific Scotland that I would love to take people to. And really, you know, going to all the stone circles and the glens and the moors and the waterfalls and, you know, the things I've Googled are like, this is going to be epic, that trip. It's going to be so magical. And so fucking activating. It's like, you have no idea, guys. So this is how, what I love, you know, with the power codes, this is how that comes out that way, what I love. And then when it comes out to the dark archetypes, right? It's like, because that's where you're going into like working with your genius, processing your genius codes, giving concrete shape and form and story to your genius. This is where, what are the kind of experiences that I want to live? What's your most euphoric experience? It's always be your genius, always be your genius, because genius is everything you wanted but never knew you wanted because you couldn't even imagine it, right? So these are the things that genius brings to you. So when we come into the dark codes in your soul, which are the myth maker, right? This is like, the myth maker is like starts to spin the story, spin the myth of what does your genius look like in the real world? Like, what are the experiences that you want to live? Where's your euphoria? And for me, that was so clear. This is, you know, taking people to power places. And then this is really funny, right? Because a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, was when I was working on putting together the Dragon School. And I just went back and looked at like all the things that came through then. But I wasn't ready yet, right? Because with, you know, I thought I was in the dark, but I was really in the shadow. But it's coming back now, you know, and I don't know how it happened, but it was like exactly the same price that landed a year ago that I just realized, whoa, it's exactly the same price. So, you know, the same content, the same format even. So the myth maker, like the darkest, like, it's like, what is the experiences that you most want to live? It's kind of like more open. It's like, what are the experiences that gives you most euphoria? And this was a question. This was where I really let go of being a pure business coach, you know, telling people sales and telling them to build a business and teaching them marketing. I mean, I still do that, but it comes under the, you know, the umbrella of everything else. I'm like, so hot, guys. So this is where I realized my euphoria is not in business coaching. It is helping people get out of shadow. I love the part, and taking them on the mystical tours, right? To power places. This is a story I want to live for the rest of my life. This is the story I want to live, and like the myth, this is the myth I want to live. And this is a business I want to create for myself. Right? This is a business that I want to live. This is the business that I want to spend the rest of my life building, because that's my dragon world. And then we come into like the hyperconscious set of codes in your soul, which is you decide where your value is. Like the name of the set of codes is like the worthless gem, which basically means that you're priceless to the few, worthless to the many. It is like where you just perform the art, you express yourself according to only your taste and what you want to experience, right? You're not doing it for anybody else, you're just doing it for yourself. And in that way, you know, it's you really become priceless to the few. And those few people, they are one who's going to want everything of you. But to the rest of the world, you're absolutely worthless. So once you take that in, that at the same time, you have no value, but you have exactly also the value that you give yourself, that you choose to have, which is all about, because now it's all about performing your genius, right? It's like the experience that you want to live. So again, the example of my mystical tours to power places, it's not for everybody. It's not at all for everybody. You know, even people who think they want to go to power places, this is not for them because they can't handle the activations that would happen if they travel with me, because most people who travel to sacred sites and power places, yeah, they get that there's something there, but they only is really, you know, the tip of the iceberg, you know, instead of the whole thing of codes that are hitting in there. So these are the 4 sets of codes in your soul. So if you take it over into your spirit, you also have the same 4 sets of codes. So when I was thinking, okay, so what is one key common denominator that I see going on with like all the 4 sets of codes in the spirit channel, and the word is power. You know, there are many more details to it, which is, you know, what you will learn in the Archetype Academy, part of the Dragon Academy, or you can just do the Archetype Academy with Wild Dynasty. But it's power, right? So a child, which is a shadow version of, which is the shadow codes in your spirit, it's like powerlessness. Powerlessness. The child has no power. When you come into the sovereign, which is the power set of codes, it's like you own your power, you own yourself as the commander of your life, and you decide what is going to happen. You know, you decide that this is the specific form your life is going to take, so you make that happen. And that comes with, I have the power, so I'm going to take responsibility for bringing this vision to come true. So again, like with the, you know, mystical tours, you know, the ancient magic of Scotland, right? It's like, I want this to come true. I want this to come true. So, and I have the power to make it come true. And I like took command of the life I wanted to create for myself. I actually sat down on my butt and spent this whole last weekend putting the trip together. You know, where are we going to go? You know, putting in Google Maps, researching a ton of places, watching YouTube channels, reading blogs, you know, whatever. So there is the commitment to creating what you desire, right? Because you know you have the power. You know you have the power. So when you go into the dark, right, it becomes you close, which is a different substance, right? It's a different substance. It is not on a scale of the same thing. It's completely different substance. I remember I was talking with the Sonika about this. Okay, so in Power Code, I really have to take responsibility. But it's like, there's nothing to take responsibility for with the dark because you're submitting to genius. This is where you kind of let go of being the commander of your life and instead become the steward of your genius, even if you can't see what it looks like. Now, the thing with the power set of codes, right? You can see what it looks like and what you're creating, because this is the specifics that we're working with. But when you come into the dark, there are no specifics. They are just like, but it's a nothing, right? It's a void, which is where when you're empty of content, this is when genius can come out of the codes and begin to create something new, but it has to have completely, the complete void. So when you come into the blind seer, it's like when you close your eyes to everything that you know to be and just stare into the nothing, not knowing what is there, but submitting to it because you are, this is where, yeah, it's like the best way I can describe it is that instead of taking command of your own life, you are taking on the stewardship, the sacred stewardship of bringing your genius art into creation. Remember, I said like genius wants to become matter. Genius wants to matter, it wants to become matter. It's your purest divine expression, it's your divinity. So it wants to come out into the world. And once you take it into the deluded God, which is the hyperconscious part of your spirit, it's like, yeah, of course it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen, I'm entitled to it to happen. I have the power. I'm a God. It's going to happen. And so it kind of like turbocharges the idea that you can create whatever you want because you have the power to do it. And then there's your body, the part of you that consists of your body. So, again, there's many different aspects to each of these parts of you. It's like there's a whole much more to each set of codes and to each channel. But I wanted to put it together in a different way here than you might have ever heard before. So when I thought about like the body aspects, which is like, the victim warrior channel, which, my home channel, was like my biggest fucking struggle in that one. So what is that really about, right? It's about loyalty. It's about loyalty. What are you loyal to? So in the shadow set of codes, you're loyal to your survival. And that's it. You're loyal to your fears. You're loyal to your survival because fears is your key to what you should not do, because if you do the thing you're afraid of, you might not survive, right? So your loyalty is to your survival, which is true for all the shadow codes, but it really is in focus here in the victim shadow. You're loyal to your survival, whatever that takes. And yeah. So once you move into the power set of codes in the part of, in your body channel, in the part of you that has to do with the body, the loyalty then becomes to bringing your specific vision into creation. So remember where I said like the power codes were very much about giving specific form to your 3D world. This is really where you can see it with the warrior code. It's like where you say, okay, this is a vision. So now I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this so that it can become a thing, which is where I was, doing the research, watching YouTube, creating my Excel sheet for my Scotland tour. That was like the power code in my body channel, which has to do with space, right? Body is like 3D matter, it's space, it's filling of space, it's creating space. So then when I move into the activator, which is the dark set of codes in your body part, it's actually about switching your loyalty. And remember, it's not even switching your loyalty, because these two things exist at the same time. It's like your loyalty becomes to your genius instead of yourself. Remember, it's like in the dark, it's about you take on the sacred stewardship of your genius and commit to making it matter. And you give your loyalty to that once you come into, the dark set of your body codes, where it becomes all about the loyalty to your genius, and all other loyalties fall away because you become loyalty to your divinity, to your own divinity, to your own giant, monstrous, divine, sacred, mystic genius. right? That's your loyalty. And once you then move into the hyperconscious channel, which is this honorable defector, it's like really where this is taken to the extreme, and you just drop away all other responsibilities in your life. And, you know, talking about this, it's, you know, I was looking at this, you know, coming into, you know, doing all these tours. I have no idea if that business is ever going to take off. You know, I have no idea what's going to come of it. I have no idea if I'm going to end up living on the street, you know, like, it's like, I don't know these things, and I still give my absolute loyalty over anything else to, you know, the story, the world that my genius is that I have submitted to creating. Genius is not demanding anything, but I submit to taking on that sacred stewardship and putting my genius codes into a form. But there's no guarantees, right? But the dishonorable defector is like just giving away all other loyalties until there's only loyalty to genius left. And it's scary, you know? But it's also where, when you do that, it's like everything falls away, right? All your other responsibilities, all your other loyalties, everything falls away. And you're just free to create whatever it is that you want to create. So the last channel here, the last part of you, is your mind. And what is the mind about? It's about knowing. You know, it's like when I was trying to figure out, okay, so what's a common keyword to all 4 sets of codes in, you know, in your mind part? It's knowing. It's knowing. So on a shadow level, it's all about figuring out how to survive. What do you know how to survive? How can you understand things so that you can survive, so that you can ensure your survival? When you move up in the power level, the power set of codes, it becomes about your intuition. Because you know that there is a knowing that is beyond what you can physically touch and see, that taps into your higher self, which is where the intuition lives. Like, your intuition comes from your higher self that exists outside time. So I can see where it's already, everything has already been created, and it will show you the fastest way to bring your specific creation into existence, right? It's called intuition, submission to intuition. And it's like that's where, this is where the substance of power sits in your mind channel. Intuition, right? It's always tell you the fastest way to bringing your specific expression of genius into a 3D matter creations. And then you take it into the alchemist, right? And there you begin to, you know, you close your eyes, because again, it's like a very different thing. It's here, it's not about, when you come into the dark archetypes, it's not about bringing it into fruition. It's about bringing out the codes that you can then pass on to the power, to the power codes, or the power set of codes to bring into 3D. But it's like they are not directly related. I mean, here, think of it as like different houses. Like the shadow codes live in one, you know, exist in one house. The power set of codes exist in another house. The dark codes sit in a third house, and the hyperconscious code sits in a 4th house. And they have interactions, but they kind of like pass it between them. They don't all exist at the same time, or they're all working at the same time, except when you unhook from shadow. Excuse me. So when you come into the dark set of codes in the mind channel, it's the alchemist, which is really about knowing specifically which codes of genius that needs to be involved, that needs to then be passed on, you know, to the activator, to the power codes, to then be brought into a specific creation. And then when you go into the, you know, the hyperconscious, you know, set of codes, it becomes the devilish disruptor, because magic is created by disrupting patterns. which is also what intuition about. It's like disrupting patterns. You disrupt, you disrupt, you disrupt. And in the disruption, you open the space for the new to come true. Because if you don't disrupt, there will still be more of the same, more of the same, more of the same. So it's like the whole process of the power codes is, well, how to say it? It's like the hyperconscious codes are very much wild, chaotic, because they're kind of disruptive and they don't make any sense. They don't make any common sense. So they're very chaotic, but then they're, funneled down to the power codes and, given order. Because this is what the power set of codes is about. It's like bringing order to chaos, which is the same as bringing it from your genius chaos codes, the nothing of the dark, into a 3D creation with the power codes. So the point here is that once you really master these master codes of life, I mean, it's like these are the master codes of life: the shadow codes, the power codes, the dark codes, and the hyperconscious codes, and the genius codes. I'm actually going to put the genius codes in here also, because this is really ultimately what the whole code mastery is about. It's about living your genius. It's becoming a dragon. It's creating your dragon world for the most euphoric life ever. And it means that the feelings and thoughts and beliefs and behaviors that keep you stuck, right? It's like the negative thoughts: I can't do it, I don't believe in myself, I feel unmotivated, I feel uninspired, I feel powerless, I feel helpless, I don't know how, falling short in comparison with everybody else, whatever it is. These are the shadow codes. And you don't need the shadow codes. You need the power codes, you need the dark codes, you need the hyperconscious codes to bring genius to life. You have absolutely zero need for shadow codes anymore. That age on Earth is over, where they were crucial for your survival. You don't need them anymore. You can survive on all the others. So the work then is, the code mastery really comes into existence when you unhook from shadow. But this is also where the insane amount of work is, to keep coming from shadow into power, because the power codes are the gateway into your genius codes. It's like you got to go to the genius. You can't quite skip directly into it. You can skip from shadow into genius in like, I have a taste for this. This is what I have a taste for. Like, for example, I remember one time I was like, oh my God, I haven't had a sale in a while. I need to have a sale. And I was looking for progress. And I realized, this is just, I have a taste for a lot of money, which then flipped me into genius, which is all about what I have a taste for, what experiences I want to live, right? I want to live the experience of having a lot of money. And then and then immediately flip me out of it. You can't always do it, but you gotta get into learning to make power your default operating system, because that's a gateway to all the magic. It's a gateway to becoming, the dragon, and, have that like phenomenal life where, no words to describe it. So the Dragon Academy, I've had a few inquiries about it. It's like, for you, if you're serious about going to war against your shadow, make it happen. Make it happen, because you're not helpless when it comes to how much money you have. You're not helpless about finding the money to pay for it. If there's a will, there's a way. And I say that because if there's a will, which is a power code, is a very specific power code, the way will be created, right? But it won't be created if you don't have the will first. So this is the structure of the Dragon Academy is going to be that we meet for one 6-hour-long group session. It's 6 hours, but it's spread out over 8 hours. We've got to have some breaks. Once a month, you will have unlimited access to me in a private online space. You will have 4 months access to the Archetype Academy, which is True Wild Dynasty, where you will really, really learn the specifics of the archetypes, which we are then my job is to help you actually do it, not just know about it, but actually make it your life, which is my euphoria. This is what I have a taste for experiencing. And you'll get access to my Money Warrior and Sales Sword programs, which are both business programs that's going to help you make money. And let's see, the price is 1,300 euros a month or 15,000 euros in full pay. So for a whole year, this is not a whole lot. It's like really, really cheap for a whole year of this. And oh, one more thing. At the end, we will do a 4-day retreat because, it's like a fucking insane value you're getting in this Dragon Academy. And this is not purely about business. It's about, as I say, if you have shadow in one area of life, you have it in all areas of life. You're just going to go wherever the shadows are because you deal with shadow always in the current moment. So if you really want to get out of shadow, if you really, really want to get out of shadow, get yourself into the Dragon Academy, because this is where I'm going to kick your ass over and over and over again until you have the power code animation as your new normal. That's how you get access to Genius and all the magic. And also, when you're in power, you will make money because you will command that into being. Genius wants to matter, it wants to be sold, it knows exactly how it wants to be sold. So there will be money if you animate. It's like shadow is always the only reason why you're not making money. So if you're waiting to have money before you learn to, before you do something serious about unhooking from shadow, it's not going to happen. You have to figure out the money so that you can invest in unhooking from shadow, and then you can begin to make more money, right? So think of it not as an expense, but as an initial investment that's then going to pay itself back. Okay, guys, I haven't been doing such a long live stream in a long time, but I really wanted to bring you a different perspective of this, because once you master these codes, and I also want to say that the dark codes and the hyperconscious codes, they kind of like just sit there in the background, like fueling into it's like streaming into the power codes, which are actually the ones you're going to be living a lot, right? They are the ones that makes you go through the life and take the actions and build your business, or, create the relationships, or go out dating, or, get serious about your health, or do something else. It's like fix, set boundaries with your children. These are all the power codes that are going to come into play in a day-to-day basis, whereas the dark codes and the hyper-conscious codes, they're sitting more in the background, sort of more silently, but like fueling the power codes about exactly what you're going to create. Okay. So this is it. Oh, and if you really want, there's of course the Dragon Academy for 1 year. If you want like a massive boost out of shadow, I highly recommend you come to, either the Wild Mystique retreat or one of my tours, because what happens on these places, we actually step out of shadow world. We step out of the shadow world. It's like this portal opening I do, where you just leave your life, you leave your human life and step into your dragon self. So for a week in human time, but 7 weeks in dragon time or genius time, your body will be soaking. It's like just only animating power codes or genius codes or hyperconscious codes. So you really program, it's really establish that new normal in your body, and you activate so many more codes, you can't even fathom it. So yeah, that's if you want to, if you're really wanting to go for it, like full force right now and have massive changes happening in your life. Okay, see you next time.